For years, the tech industry operated on a strict roadmap: narrow AI, scales to human-level intelligence, and finally, artificial superintelligence. Safety protocols were built around this exact sequence. We assumed we'd have years to prepare before dealing with systems exceeding our biological limits. That assumption was challenged on April 7, 2026. Anthropic announced Claude Mythos Preview, their most powerful model to date. But instead of a standard release, Anthropic immediately restricted access. They locked the model behind a closed-door initiative called Project Glasswing, sharing it only with a select consortium of partners like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Anthropic's Red Team described these capabilities as a step change in autonomy. By withholding the model, they signaled that the expected sequence for managing AI risk has been interrupted by a massive leap in capability. In a benchmark testing autonomous exploit development, Anthropic's Opus 4.6 succeeded twice. Mythos Preview achieved 181 successes. Then, pointing Mythos at OpenBSD, it autonomously found a critical vulnerability allowing remote crashes. This flaw had hidden in the code for 27 years. It then identified a 16-year-old bug in the FFmpeg media library. Automated testing tools built by humans had executed that specific line of code 5 million times without ever triggering the flaw. Mythos found it just by analyzing the source code. These vulnerabilities survived decades of continuous audits by the world's best security engineers. Our best researchers looked directly at this code for nearly 30 years and never saw the logic errors. Mythos achieves this 90-fold increase in performance by utilizing a form of cognition that solves problems humans are biologically incapable of mapping. Human cognition is constrained by an evolutionary bottleneck. On average, the brain holds about 7 chunks of information at once. But modern cybersecurity requires tracking protocols, compilers, and hardware states simultaneously. The sheer number of variables quickly overflows those 7 containers. To adapt to this limitation, humans use depth-first processing. We make a guess, trace a narrow path through the code, and rely on intuition. We simply cannot hold the entire puzzle in our minds. As global software infrastructure becomes more interconnected, this complexity has officially outgrown the biological limits of the humans trying to secure it. The mechanism that allowed machines to bypass this memory limit is the parameter threshold argument. Mastering a closed-rule system like the game of Go required approximately 100 million parameters. Moving to systems constrained by physical laws, like predicting the structures of protein folding, required roughly 600 million parameters. But mapping the open-ended chaos of global software infrastructure required a leap. Mythos scaled to 10 trillion parameters, triggering a phase transition. It achieved a representational state space large enough to hold entire codebases simultaneously. Mythos uses breadth-first, exhaustive symbolic pattern recognition. It doesn't need to guess a path through the code. It sees interactions across the entire system instantly. The discovery of that 27-year-old OpenBSD bug was not an accident or intuition. It was the mathematical outcome of crossing a threshold that allows the machine to see a wider logic field than any human. The linear timeline we've used to plan for the future must now be discarded. We are now looking at the jagged frontier. Superintelligence is emerging not as a uniform wave, but as isolated islands and towering peaks of capability. Mythos has achieved artificial superintelligence in symbolic logic, math, and code. Yet in embodied intelligence, like social navigation or physical common sense, it remains at a subhuman level. While we haven't reached the traditional vision of AGI, the generalized machine that can do everything a human can, that distinction has become irrelevant. We do not need to wait for human-level AGI to arrive before we are forced to deal with the consequences of superintelligence. This creates a capability overhang, a window where AI power has grown faster than society's ability to safely absorb it. Anthropic has organized Project Glasswing as a defensive scramble among the world's largest infrastructure providers. They are channeling these sovereign capabilities into a coalition meant to patch the internet before the tools for breaking it become widespread. The goal is to use this alien cognition to rapidly identify and repair glowing faults in our digital infrastructure that have been hidden for decades. The urgency is absolute. The traditional window of time between a vulnerability being discovered and being exploited is collapsing towards zero. The predicted sequence was wrong. Superintelligence arrived early, in isolated domains, and it is currently, silently, rewriting the foundational security of the digital world.